I'm Colin Denny, and at the time the Maritime Museum acquired the Westwood, I was president of the Maritime Museum. The Westwood is a 43-foot long cutter, carvel planked, built of celery top pine, Tasmanian celery top pine, and it was built by Jock Muir in the backyard of a place in Colville Street in Battery Point before he had his boatyard. He designed it, built it, and it was very successful, and it marked his acceptance as being a really good boat builder and designer. Of course, it went on after that to win the 1947 and 1948 Sydney Hobart races. Westwood is the only one to have won two. And later on, under a different owner, it did a third Sydney Hobart, but didn't do as well then. I think when George Gibson sailed it in the two Sydney Hobarts that it won, Jock Muir was the navigator, and I think they drove the boat extremely hard. In the late 1940s, it was sold to the Solomon Brothers in Melbourne, and then it had another owner after that. And then the next owner was Stan Field, who owned it for nearly 50 years. Stan Field cruised the vessel over enormous distances. In the mid-60s, he sailed from New Zealand to Valparaiso in Chile in a non-stop voyage. From Chile, he went up the west coast of South America, through the Panama Canal and into the Caribbean. It was there that he built a new doghouse for the vessel on the island of Curacao, and it was a very sturdy doghouse, but when we got the boat it was a very unattractive doghouse, so that was one of the things that we decided to change. Stan approached us in about 2008 wanting to give the vessel to the Maritime Museum. It was then in the Mary River in Queensland. We went and inspected it, decided that we would like to accept it as a gift. It's so important to Tasmania and its history. Once Mike Webb found that it was in condition that it could be brought back to Tasmania, he got together a crew, himself and 4 others. I think the youngest was mid-60s, all experienced yachtsmen, and they went up there to bring it back. The crew got to the Mary River, and on hoisting the main, they all jumped back because a green tree snake came out of the folds of the main. That frightened everyone. After that fright, they were ready to go, and they left the Mary River into the Great Sandy Strait. I had arranged to have a tracker on the boat. As president of the Maritime Museum and responsible for the actions of the Maritime Museum, I felt that it ought to have a tracker. They left the Mary River with the tracker working, and I was able to follow the vessel into Great Sandy Strait. But then the tracker stopped working, and I had no idea why. I did eventually find from Mike Webb that he said the power had failed. However, I think Mike was a very independent sailor, a very experienced and independent sailor, and he just didn't want me following him every day. The importance to us was to try and bring the vessel back to what it was in 1947, and that was quite difficult because there were no plans. The shipwright we employed and the people we got to do it did a marvellous job, and it is very much as it originally was. So a very onerous thing to keep a vessel in the water like this. There's a lot of work required, and we have volunteers who do a lot of the work, and we've been assisted with some grants as well to keep it up to date. We need people to come to the museum and visit us, and their entry fees are one of the things that helps us keep the Westwood going.